morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. It's Bear here. And I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, A Box with No Lid. A channel I'm creating not just to bring the awareness around the lived reality of complex trauma, but I'm really trying to get into the real world understandings needed to begin the processes of healing, of being able to change the ecology around you to actually support you in your healing. And to understand that all the different ways that trauma plays out in the real world, you're seen. Because when you look at textbooks and all this stuff, they define it in one simple sentence, where there is a complexity in the real world that is so often missed. And I try to do this from a base of, I've been around, I'm a trauma survivor, I've been around this stuff and an advocate and a practitioner for many, 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 many years. What this video is about, I want to bring to the attention of all of you out there a very common trap that we fall into when we're healing trauma. It is probably one of the most common. And that is because the focus is so much on the releasing of trauma, of getting the memories of removing and healing triggers and getting them out of our body tissues and all these sorts of things, of purging this trauma from our body and being, that there is next to no understanding or work done to teach you how to relearn, how to connect, interact, be part of, and belong, to actually feel and be part of a group that you choose to be around, to heal that attachment trauma. The emphasis is so much on release and not learning the skill sets needed to become part of again, to move past that isolation that trauma creates and actually heal the relationships that you value so that you are part of. And what this creates is a real need to shape our surroundings to match what we've been taught through the releasing of trauma, of what we need to remain in this space. Well, I've put all this effort into releasing trauma. I need the world to be this way so I can be in this space. And it's an argument that is not wrong, but it's an argument that over time just isolates us again. Because we don't have the right to dictate to others how to be. And we see it in this world all the time. There are many people getting up on podiums, screaming the most ridiculous things in trying to control a world around them. But they are just coming from a base of, I've come from this trauma experiences. I need this to be able to be part of the world. I need the world to change to this to meet my requirements. Because the therapy process told me that this is what was supposed to be. The instructions that we followed to release trauma, to try to rebuild an understanding to be safe enough to become the instructions that we expect this world around us to become. It simply doesn't work that way. Right, wrong, or indifferent, it just doesn't work that way. And this is one of those 50 cat wrangling arguments, or this analogy of healing trauma is trying to herd 50 feral cats in one direction. Whilst we're focusing on creating a place that's safe to release, we also need to create and start to work with the skill sets to re-engage into what we will interpret as an unsafe world. They go hand in hand. We tried for decades to create institutions to isolate people that have gone through trauma, that have had, severe mental illness breaks or health breaks. We isolate them into institutions with the understanding if we can create a controllable environment, they should go through these healing processes, and then we can introduce them back into the world. It has never worked. It doesn't work, and it never will work, because the isolated environment is so separate from the reality of a physical world. You're just reaffirming this wall of isolation. We need to work hand in hand of, yes, this world is hostile. And unfortunately it is. But there's all these good bits in amongst all the not so good bits. And it needs to go hand in hand as we work to release trauma, is learning the skill sets to reconnect, to navigate and find the good bits, and to avoid or prevent or stop the bad. We need to grow these skill sets and engage them in, numerous times, to where it's not, I'm trying to enforce this. It's a skill set of what I create. I don't create the problems down the road because I'm not demanding the world to change to my needs. I'm creating the world and my niche and my part in the world that supports me. It's a slightly different approach, but it is something that we really need to get our head around when we're healing from trauma. Because if we truly are honest, you look around, we're surrounded by a world that demands, all these individuals form groups demanding that the world be a certain way. And it never will. And even if we could wave a magic wand and make it all one way, it won't work. Our species needs the diversity to be able to grow and multiply and be prosperous. If we remove, there's been numerous studies where they've created utopian societies with people and with rats and things like that, and they've never worked. We have this ideology push that if we can get everybody to think the way we do, it'll all be great. It won't. It will never work. It's just the way we're designed. We are different, in traditional societies, old world societies, you have different clans, different groups that fulfill different requirements of the ecology of that tribe or of that community. That's that diversity playing out. Yes, you have a people, and you see it with an indigenous people, even today, that are still isolated from the Western world. They function and prosper because those clans are what feeds and grows and works with that diversity, what steers that diversity into an ecology, a functionality that makes the tribe work, prosperous, and living in that community. It's not a dictatorship or enforcement by one individual over everybody else. It's an ecology that works together. That is how we're designed. And as much as we human beings like to think we can dictate and separate from how we're designed, we can't. It's an impossibility. So for me, if we work with it, and if we understand it, and if we learn from the older societies, and that skill up those, get those skill sets practical in this modern world, we can work with them. To be able to go hand in hand with, yes, I'm creating a space of safe, to teach my body how to be safe again, to be able to release all my responses to trauma. But I'm also working to develop the skills to engage with a world that I perceive and know has hostile. It has hostility. It's a risks, and it's all these other parts that feed our trauma responses. And we need to do this titration in balance until we find a happy medium. Otherwise, if we focus just on the release part, we will do a massive release. We will end up purging a lot from our system. We will transfer a lot of trauma experiences into memory. But the core structure that we developed to survive is still there. And when we bring that into how we engage into our life and world, it will just start to feed those trauma responses again. It will show us that no matter how hard we work, the world is hostile and will not change. I cannot get the ability to articulate to the people that I cared about that have left. I cannot create these changes. I cannot do this. I cannot do that. And I see these play out all the time. And I'm trying to find a way to explain it so that it doesn't happen. Or if it has happened, how to start to build bridges. We need to skill up to be part of a world that doesn't see things the way we think it needs to. A lot of this comes from pre-verbal and early childhood, non-appeasement of when we're being harmed, which I'll get to in other videos. But we need to develop the skill sets of connecting and interacting. At the same time, we're focusing on releasing. So that when we start to re-engage after the release, the next day we're engaging in the world again, we have the supports, we start to recognize the supports we have that we can be part of the world and life again. And we start to support all the hard work that we've done in releasing our trauma responses. We are starting to undo the survival state and all the skill sets we've learned to feed that survival state to protect us from harm and to protect us from what happened in the past. And we start to unravel this whole matrix of structure that is our trauma response. And we start to relearn how to be part of on the road to belonging. We start to value interactions. We start to pursue with the knowledge and skill sets to protect ourselves so that we're not taken advantage of, so that we're not opening up the possibilities of harm again. And we develop these skill sets little by little at each engagement. This is not a set of instructions that you can follow. These are skill sets we learn through doing and through experiencing. I hope this makes sense. It is a difficult one to convey because of the complexity of it, and because the primary argument to change the world to what we need is not wrong. But it is something of what is achievable, and it is also understanding how to relearn to be part of. As always, I love you guys' comments and feedback. Please be mindful, please be safe, and I'll see you all next time. Hope.